The Dooming Cavalier is now a musical. Hot dog!
Hallelujah!
Fellas, I feel this is my lucky day, March 23rd.
Oh, no, your lucky day is the 24th.
What do you mean the 24th?
It's 1:30 already. It's morning.
Yes, and what a lovely morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
We've talked the whole night through.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. It's great to stay up late. Good morning. Good morning to you. When the band began to play, the stars were shining bright.
Now the milkman's on his way. It's too late to say goodnight. So
Good morning.
good morning.
we've talked the whole night through.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Morning. Good morning. We've gabbed the whole night through. Good morning. Good morning to
Nothing
you.
could be grander than to be in Louisiana
In the morning.
Good morning.
We've talked the whole night through.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Hello, hello, hello. I'm Nicole Saban.
And for those that don't know me, my name is Daniel Higgins. And those that do know me, please keep your opinions to yourselves.
One
Yeah.
day. One day someone will speak up when you say that, Dan, and I feel you're going to regret it.
No, I'm not, because probably most of it will be true, and I will have it coming at that point. I'm inviting it, it's like it's an invite, but no one has taken me up on the offer.
Well, John Geffner is here tonight. It's that
Oh.
very special time again, John says.
Yes, because we're spending it with you, John. That's why it's so special.
And look, Rosa Marie is here. She loves Donald O'Connor. So do we.
Yes, what an icon! What an icon!
Donald
No one is
O'Connor.
funnier than Donald O'Connor. Good morning, Nicole.
Good morning, Dan. Oh, God, it's the morning, isn't it? It's 12:02.
Yes, happy Saturday. How's your week been?
My week has been a week. It's been a week.
Yeah?
I went to the library.
Was there a Monday?
Was there a Monday? What's today?
Today is Saturday.
It's Tuesday, Lemon.
It's Tuesday, 11. You know, it's funny. I do not know how people do podcasts on the regular because it's fun, but this shit is chaotic. It is just like, it's like doing a show. It's like doing a show, preparing, doing the research and getting yourself ready and all the rigmarole that comes with it, And it magically comes together in the end, There is an element of theater.
Don't jinx it, Dan.
Oh, well, I'll go outside, spit, turn, and curse.
Oof.
Well, we got a great show for you tonight, everybody. It is EastLine Insomnia, which means we're live, which means we're cursing. It means we're going to have some interesting news and coming events for you guys. We're going to have a wonderful debate topic tonight, aren't we, Nicole? What are we hashing out tonight?
I'm sorry, Dan. I refuse to hold it virtually.
Oh,
We can't do the debate virtually, Dan. We have to go
Why
talk
not?
about this in person.
well, I mean, this is as best as we got, and we have a time schedule to stick on because we have lots of opinions that are going to go on for a while, so we better get to it.
Well, tonight we are talking about what is the greatest musical of all time.
Which, that's like our usual Tuesday,
We figured we would get some of you folks involved as well because we're tired of our opinions on the matter.
I mean, I'm not tired of my opinions, but maybe Nicole is tired of mine, but I'm not tired of my personal opinion.
Well, so if you have thoughts on this subject, do comment down below. We're going to give you time later, too, to post your opinions about what is the greatest musical of all time.
Yeah.
Oh, look, Rosemary Kurtz thinks I'm funny. Nice.
Oh, well, at least there's one. We also read a book this week, didn't we?
We did read a book this week. We'll tell you more about that later.
Yes, we will. And before we get to any of that, we have to do our usual segment of the news. In depression news, the coronavirus-induced shutdown of Broadway theaters will now officially extend for one more year. The Broadway League, the consortium of producers and theater owners that govern the industry, has announced plans to extend the theater closure from January 3rd, 2021, when theaters were previously set to reopen, through May 30th, 2021. The industry first closed on March 12th of this year, and the Broadway League had set a rolling series of possible reopening dates. First in April, then in June, then in Labor Day. We see where this is going. And then finally after the end of the year. This hedging on the producers' parts is partially a cash flow issue. When is it not? As theaters will now have to offer refunds and exchanges for canceled performances for the additional months of the closure. The choice to set a date in May now seems closer to a realistic assessment of when live performances might be able to return. We've been told that before. Depending on the variables of vaccine approval and distribution, given that staging theater on the scale Broadway is known for generally isn't financially feasible if audience sizes are capped for the sake of social distancing.
I mean, it's sad news, but I think that smaller theater will return before then.
I would agree. Outdoor theater is thriving on New York at the moment.
Yeah, it is. It is. But in somewhat happier news, the Broadway League announced Thursday that the Tony Awards nominating committee will meet to vote on this year's nominations on Tuesday, October 13th, and then on Thursday, October 15th at noon Eastern Time, Tony winner James Monroe Iglehart will announce the nominees in a live stream. The awards committee, however, has still not announced when the digital ceremony will be taking place. Eligible shows had to open on or before February 19th. A large portion of this year's awards' favorite musicals have been deemed ineligible due to this cutoff, including Company, Six, Girl from the North Country, and the controversial West Side Story revival. The play categories are less affected, with the Lehman trilogy, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, and How I Learned to Drive being the major plays that missed that date.
You know, the Broadway League is sort of like that friend you say you'll make plans with, but then you never actually do. I feel like the Broadway League is just this incredible tease. I would rather them just do nothing. I honestly think I would be less depressed if I had to keep hearing about postponement after postponement. There is a pandemic going on. There are bigger issues at hand. Like, it's okay. We can take a breath. We don't need to know when theater is coming back just yet. We believe it will.
Yes.
So I think they should hedge their bets at this point. But we also have some events for some of the virtual things still going on.
We do.
Online.
Events roll on. Philida Lloyd's Shakespeare trilogy, set in a women's prison and filmed at the Donmar Warehouse, will stream for free, courtesy of St. Anne's Warehouse, beginning October 9th and available through November 1st. The trio of plays, Julius Caesar, Henry IV, and The Tempest, starring Harriet Walter, will stream on the St. Anne's Warehouse website.
I will be watching that. Now, something a little more off the beaten path. The New York Theater Workshop has an event that caught my eye a little bit here. On October 27th and 28th, they're presenting The Seagull on Sims 4, in which artist Cecily Song, the playwright of Endlings, which we had tickets to.
I know. I'm so disappointed we missed that.
Attempts to reenact all of Chekhov's classic play The Seagull on the video games Sim 4 via Twitch. Free tickets are available at the nytw.org website. So there's a lot to unpack here.
Okay. Well, were you a player of The Sims?
I am very much a player of The Sims. I am trash. I love The Sims. I've loved The Sims since the first Sims when I was a kid. I love The Sims.
Have you reenacted seminal Russian plays on The Sims?
It's funny. It was an idea that I was toying with in my mind, but I truly didn't feel like I was the correct artist to truly do it justice.
I'm hoping Celine Song will. But I would watch your Sims Vanya. I'm just out there. I would watch your and then, or you could do the cherry orchard and build a cherry orchard, right?
Yes, you could. Well, that's the thing about Sims is that the set costs are nominal at best. I mean, you do the right cheat codes and you're not paying a dime for any of these sets.
Yeah, you're right.
Anyway, we blew past the news because we have to get to something a little more important because it's going to take up most of our time.
Indeed. We have something to chat about tonight, and it's our open debate.
Still, this Congress refuses to grant any of my proposals on independence, even so much as the courtesy of open debate. Good God, what in hell are you waiting for? Thomas, for God's sake, listen to me. I had enough of you, sir. Now listen. Will you listen to me and forget the window?
Okay, so
I mean, I think our decision is made there. We don't need to debate anything. 1776, you played the clip. That's it.
Yep, that's it. We're done. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I'm Danny Higgins.
Good night, everyone.
So we have a very overwhelming topic ahead of us. That is to say that it's easy, I think, to get lost in the weeds. So I hope we can try to avoid that as much as possible tonight. Now, this is something we all probably discuss often. It is a topic of most diner meals on Long Island, I would say. And tonight's topic is, what is the greatest musical of all time? Now, Before we get into that question, I think a bit of perspective into the idea of what great means is required. So, Nicole, going right for you. What do you think makes a musical great? And what are our tools in determining that?
Okay, so I do think that we need to narrow this down first. I think we're sticking to musicals in English. Would you agree?
Yes, I do not know many Japanese musicals, so I
know
prefer.
I know a few German musicals. The Germans are great at musical theater. I recommend everyone comment your favorite German musicals down below. I think that we're sticking to probably musicals that have been produced on the American stage, and then I think largely because of the nature of will we have heard of a show. I think that we're sticking largely to shows that have played Broadway. Now, I know that's harsh on shows that have been off Broadway.
Shout out to the Fantastics.
Shout out to the Golden Apple. But
I love the Golden Apple.
I don't feel we can say we have a large understanding of off-Broadway musicals because they have been not as frequently recorded as Broadway musicals have. I think that playing Broadway is like the number one determining factor in have we heard of it 50 years after the fact. I think being on Broadway is the number one predictor of whether or not we've heard of it. Now, of course, there are lots of more obscure musicals that did play Broadway. Some of them are among my favorites, but I think the cast recording is almost the number one determining factor of is it still around? Does it get revived?
So let's step back for a minute here. And just to clarify a few things for everyone listening, because we are going to ask you guys to join in this conversation and to comment what you think is the greatest musical of all time. So we are discussing this in terms of the American musical form, and that Broadway is the clearest place for examples of that. Yes. So commercial success, for better or worse, is what makes a musical viable long enough for people to have seen it or hear it so that it can live on. But also it allows it the opportunity to impact its medium, which is also where we need to consider some things in the sense, how long-term adaptable is it? And is it a good example of the form?
So before this, Dan and I laid out what we think our 4 criteria for selecting are. Just to be clear, we're not selecting our favorite musical. We are selecting what we think is the greatest musical. And I think for me, the number one factor in determining that is the book. Is the book good? So we played a clip of 1776 moments ago, but I think 1776 is an example of great book writing. Joe Mank agrees with me there. You'll see. 1776 is up there too. I think I think that the book of 1776 is such an innovation in how we talk about historical figures, how we characterize historical figures, and the structure of it. The structure that even to the last second, you're like, are they going to sign the Declaration of Independence? You know they're gonna, but are they going to do it?
I would argue also that, by the way, Cabaret, I think, sits up there with it. I think my opinion is that Cabaret is the greatest book of any musical, almost for the exact same reasons you've said laid out for 1776, that you don't know if the Nazis, you're like, the Nazis are going to take power, but you're like dreading every second of it happening. Yeah. So I do think you're right that, the way that these pieces use character to sort of paint a time and place is important. The next bit of criteria here is a bit more obvious, and that is score. Now, a score is more than nice music. Okay, let's be clear here. Okay, a score puts the music in musical, obviously, and without it, a musical is just a play. But so it's obvious why it's on this list of criteria. However, when you start to ask people what a good score is, you start to get into sort of murky waters. So we have to think of it sort of in this sense. Why do we sing in a musical, right? Yeah. Because words are not enough. So unlike a book, which is the structural focal point of the story, the scores of a musical is where the emotion lies. Yeah. This is the core of all musicals. It is not whether or not the music is good, as that's subjective, but whether it is able to communicate its emotion towards an audience. Yes, catchiness and toe tapping is an important factor in that communication, but its impact is what makes it land. So my example for this happens to be Ragtime, mainly because every song in Ragtime sounds like it's the Act One finale. But it is its ability to express emotion, you know, and to make an audience feel like they are sharing in that moment with these people, where that's what makes the score so memorable. So when we look at score, it is that idea, as well as whether or not we personally feel the music sounds nice.
How would you say that it is a benefit if these songs have entered the Great American Songbook, have become part of the popular?
Well, I think it adds brownie points. I would say it certainly helps it. It doesn't hurt it, you know.
Yeah.
Did Frank Sinatra record it? Certainly helps its, you know.
I would like to add that one of the criteria should be adaptability. I think that shows have to have a certain timelessness. They have to not be dated. They have to still be relevant, and they have to be adaptable to new situations. I would say Oklahoma is a good example of this. There have been so many different productions of Oklahoma, and Oklahoma in its original form still works, obviously. I'll watch a replica 1943 production of Oklahoma any day. See our season 1 episode on this issue.
Yes, please do.
But also, the show is also adaptable to many different forms. Obviously, the most recent Broadway revival was something totally different. The Oregon production that was featured gay couples, the production that featured Native American cast members. I think that it is important that the show be open to new formats as well.
Yes. Now, further on format, it comes, I think, the final piece of criteria here, which is form. Okay. So this can come from like two different directions. One, is it a good example of its form? And or two, has it laid itself in the foundation of that form? Okay. So think of it in like this sense. If aliens came to Earth, all right, other than everyone like shitting a brick, when obviously me and Nicole would go out and be like, you want to see a musical? Which musical would you show them first, right? Would you show them a good example of the form, or would you go right for what was most impactful on the form?
Comment your alien musicals down below.
Yes. Rocky Horror is the only acceptable answer. So the choices must have some sort of essence of good form, which is, I think, also basically everything we previously mentioned sort of combined, you know, and its power. I think the best example the easiest example, not the best example of form, but the easiest example is Sunday in the Park with George. Good shout out for our Sondheim fans who are listening, because we are not going to talk about him nearly enough.
There is one.
There is one. So there's one. Sunday in the Park is sort of, it is a musical in every sense of the word, but it is also challenging what a musical can be at the same time. So there needs to sort of be these balance of both these things when we are deciding what is the greatest of all time.
So just to run down our criteria again. So the more detail oriented, that it is an American musical in English, that it probably played Broadway. And then what date did we say? We said before 2000.
Before 2000,
Before 2000, because after that, it's difficult to determine the staying power of a show. So now when we do our 10th anniversary episode of EastLine Insomnia, we can then discuss whether or not Legally Blonde the musical is the greatest musical of all time. But for now,
cue John Brodigan chiming in.
But for now, anything pre-2000, and then our main criteria: an excellent book, an excellent score. Is it still relevant and timely and adaptable? And is it a good example of the form of American musical theater? So
comment your options. We'll give you 30 seconds to do so.
Okay, well,
hey, Nicole.
The 30 seconds was good for me. I got to pick my three.
I've had mine picked. I've been waiting for this conversation for years, so I am
okay. But I had to. I had about 15 in my mind, and I had to like cut
Oh
off.
no, it's not easy.
Cut off the few at the end. Like I had to like quickly. I was like, no, not My Fair Lady Nicole. No, it was never going to be Camelot, Nicole. Calm down.
Honestly, though, can we just agree now that it is Camelot so that we can at least give it its rightful place?
Oh,
you know?
Camelot.
No,
Oh,
I mean,
Camelot.
I feel you. Like, I had to nix a couple of things on the top of my list. Like, you know, honorable mentions is West Side Story and Chorus Line for me, which really is more about like how dance is incorporated in the ability to sort of portray emotion and character development through dance. I think they are the sort of, you know, the driving forces behind that idea in musical theater that you will see in Hamilton. Hamilton has a lot of it. So rewatch Hamilton, you'll see there's a lot of character development in dance in Hamilton, which is really interesting. But anyway, so I feel you on the honorable mentions.
Honorable mentions. So I guess in my number 3 pick, if I had to like order the ones in my mind, I would say Fiddler on the Roof, which somebody has commented. Kyle, yes, we're on the same page. Here's why I would say Fiddler on the Roof. I mean, if I go sort of down the criteria, I guess, I think that Fiddler on the Roof has truly one of the funniest books of all time. Truly one of the, and the way that it has synthesized short stories is perfection. And obviously the score, very memorable, big hits all around. I think the Jewish tinge of in the score is, it's like American musical theater, but slightly different, makes it memorable. I think that adaptable is obvious because we've had this stunning recent Yiddish fiddler. I mean, there's that anecdote that always goes that who was in, I don't know, Bach and Harnick maybe were in Japan and somebody said to them, "How do you understand this show in America? It's so Japanese." So I think that the show is clearly still relatable to people all around the world. And then
it's about roots.
Yes, I think it's so thoroughly about like who your ancestors are. And then of course form. I mean, I just think Fiddler on the Roof is top to bottom a perfect musical.
I would agree with you. I love me some Fiddler. The only reason I wouldn't put it in the top ends of my list is I think there are better examples. Whereas I don't think Fiddler has necessarily revolutionized its form in its presentation. You know, I think, which is why it ticks off a couple of notches for me. You know, it is obviously a classic. It's a chestnut. It's a moneymaker from top to bottom.
But it was so risky at the time.
I would agree.
I mean, obviously it's not risky now. Obviously it is an old chestnut now, and the whitest Catholic schools do Fiddler on the Roof and it's nothing. But
that still does not make sense to me.
Sorry, go ahead.
I saw Fiddler for the first time in a Catholic high school, so it still does not make sense to me, but fine.
But for a pair of Jewish songwriters to say, yeah, we're gonna musicalize Sholem Aleichem stories, like, it's ballsy, and put it on Broadway and hire Jerome Robbins to do the choreography.
Yeah.
And you know what's interesting about the choreography is that there isn't so much a song from the score that's become a standard. I mean, a few people have recorded "If I Were a Rich Man / Girl." Yeah. I feel the bottle dance has become a bit of like standard choreography. He invented the bottle dance. So Fiddler. Yeah, what's your first pick, Dan?
Okay, so my first pick is strange, but like, hear me out. Okay, so my first pick is Anything Goes. Okay, which might seem odd. All right, but hear me out. I think the reason of why it belongs in the top tier of this list is not necessarily because of the show itself, but mainly because of Cole Porter. So like Cole Porter, I think, is the pioneer of the musical form as we kind of understand it. He wasn't necessarily the greatest at it. You know, he wasn't the best, but he was the first, I feel like, who broke through and made it mainstream. You know, like he wrote music specifically for the theater, you know, and so Anything Goes to me is sort of, you know, it's problematic in many different ways, but I would say, so like Anything Goes is like the plain bagel of musicals. Okay.
I like plain bagels.
It is. Well, look, plain bagels. It's nothing special or fancy. It has no bells or whistles. It has no schmear. But if you were going to explain a bagel, you would start with plain, right?
I guess.
And then maybe you'd start adding like everything with veggie cream cheese and, you know, fun little stuff like that. Or like Doritos. We have Doritos on here.
Doritos.
Yep, that's a thing. And we're not talking, we'll come back to that at the end segment.
Oh my God.
Anything Goes is like, just to me, the best example of how musicals used to be, where our roots are found. And even though it's not Cole Porter's best musical. I would say a debt is still owed to Cole, and I think it must be paid in some respect. So Anything Goes is my third choice.
I mean, I agree with you on the greatness of Anything Goes, but I think the tick that Anything Goes has against it is that there is no standard version. Ooh, Brian has just chimed in with the same thought. Because every version of Anything Goes is different.
Mm-hmm.
There is no standard Anything Goes, and people just sort of use it as like a Cole Porter jukebox musical.
Yes.
So they just sort of throw in whatever tunes they want.
Yes. The reason it's here instead of Kiss Me Kate, I just want to say, is that Kiss Me Kate is too much of the form from later. You know, this Anything Goes is still very much Cole Porter as he would write in his mind, you know. Kiss Me Kate, I feel, sort of adapts to the way theater was changing because it's a later musical. So that's also, why.
Kiss Me Kate is dated. Let's be real.
Yes, obviously. No, and Anything Goes is dated. It's dated from top to
but
bottom,
Kiss Me Kate is much more dated than Anything Goes, a show from 20 years earlier. So dated is not about when the show is written, I feel.
No, but I think there are some jokes in Anything Goes that are very dated, Nicole.
Oh yeah, okay. So yes, there is but it's the whole overarching plot of the play does not rely on that.
No, it doesn't, but they're still present, is my point.
No,
it's still
you're right.
very much there.
I'd forgotten about that because it is quite minor.
Yeah. But I'm just saying.
It is egregious. You're right. It is egregious.
Yeah, it is. And I'm not putting it on the list because of that. I'm putting it on the list because Cole Porter is sort of, I feel, the booster seat that all musical theater sits on. So.
That's fair. I feel in a perfect world. I don't know if anybody saw The New Yorkers at City Center Encores. If you haven't, there is a cast recording. I recommend it.
So
I kind of think it's going to become the standard Cole Porter musical.
I would have picked it. I would have picked it, but it just didn't. It hasn't made its way. It
hasn't made it. Yeah, there haven't.
That
been
probably would have been my pick if it was more in the mainstream consciousness.
Yeah, because it is a perfect Cole Porter musical.
Yes.
It's exactly what you want out of a Cole Porter musical.
Absolutely. So Nicole, number 2 on your list.
Okay, my number 2 pick is Guys and Dolls. Now I stand for Guys and Dolls. I gotta say, because I love the Damon Runyon stories and. As Jack Vertel talks about in his book, The Secret Life of the American Musical, the perfectness of the plot, because it is a sort of standard trope of musical theater that there is a romantic couple and a funny couple. And usually one is subservient to the other. You know, the funny couple, like for example, in Oklahoma, like Lori and Curly are the more romantic couple, and Ado Annie and whichever of her men she's with today are like sort of subservient to them. And we're supposed to see the one as like the pinnacle of romance. But Guys and Dolls is like, no, these two couples are exactly equal. Their plot is so intertwined. The reason Nathan is having trouble with Adelaide is because Sky is having trouble with Sarah, and vice versa. And the two are so perfectly entwined. And then, of course, the score, full of standards, perfect score. Like, I don't even know where to start. Like, even the ballet at the beginning of the show. You can never. I don't know how people go to race courses and race courses. Yeah, that's the word. Horse races. Exactly. That's all I sing. That's all. It's always in my head. Look.
Do you go to the horse races often, Nicole? Do you race often?
No.
Are you a jockey, Nicole? Are you secretly a horse jockey?
We have some people agreeing with me. Thank you. They do not use.
You only post the comments that either disagree with me or agree with you.
No,
that's all I'm saying.
I didn't post it.
You're hiding.
Nobody.
This is a grand conspiracy of everyone against me.
Oh, there was only one comment about Anything Goes. Okay.
I'm kidding.
Comment your love for Anything Goes down below.
No, don't. I totally don't expect anyone to fully be in love with Anything Goes. That's not why it's on the list.
I did not know this. Did you? Have I never noticed this? They do not use contractions in Guys and Dolls. I guess you're right. You are right, John.
I guess so.
I never fully considered what the weird speech pattern they're using is. Anyway,
that's fair. That's interesting.
I think it's a perfect example of the form, and I think it is like if aliens came down to Earth, and you were like, "I'm going to show them a musical." Guys and Dolls would be perfect because it's got a few things going for it. It's got New York, it's got funny gangsters.
Yes, it does.
It's got like a sort of mythical time period. And I just think that it's a perfect show. Am I going to say that about every one of my choices?
I mean, it's hard.
Like, I could think of 100 perfect musicals. So
yeah, it's hard.
I think this is one. I think this is
well, I think it's interesting that you mentioned that Guys and Dolls is a New York musical, because I think you are correct. And that I think its ability to sort of, so, you know, I know this is going to sound really pretentious, but, you know, musical theater is a New York art form. It was born and bred in New York. And I think Guys and Dolls is sort of the first moment where we see in musical theater where that form is sort of making commentary on the environment in which it was born. So I think that's really interesting as well, you know. And I think you're right. I do think it is one of the great books. I would agree there that it's one of the great books of musicals. Should we
review a few things that people have mentioned here?
Yeah, before I get to mine, go for it.
We have Rokert says Brigadoon. We're not going to discuss that.
Bring a book.
Sorry, Ro.
No. I actually know the music in Brigadoon is stunning.
Sweeney. We've had sort of 2 votes for Sweeney here. Sweeney 17. We've had 2 votes for 1776 as well.
I think you sold me on Ragtime.
Nice,
about the epicness of the score. I mean, it's really. I mean, like, listen. So, like, think about it in this sense, right? I think of always the moment of when Tata and daughter enter Ellis Island. You know, enter Ellis Island, and it's like music. The biggest, the gates of heaven open, and the music is like trumpeting. It's like, and it's just a scene change, you know, and it's like, what is happening?
Well, the gate crashing down music always gets me. You're right.
Yeah, you're right.
We've had another vote for 1776. Obviously,
1770. Oh, Elena.
Hi, Elena.
Oh, you're so basic. Come on, we knew that was coming.
Honestly, we agree.
No, I agree. I do agree.
Sunrise Sunset is a standard at weddings. You're right. Thank you. I had forgotten
That's a very depressing standard at weddings. Our village is being evicted. We're being evicted from our village. You know?
Well, no, it's just a wedding song on the show until the Russians turn up.
I know, but it's, you know, anyway.
A bagel on a plate of onion rolls. Oh, when you were talking about bagels. Nice.
Yep.
Ooh, we've got some George M. Cohan love.
Interesting. I didn't even think of George M. Cohan. Yeah, that's right.
And then, of course, bring a book.
Bring a book.
So I
gotta give credit where credit is due. Pat Riley was the one who said that originally. Gotta give credit where credit. Bring a book. Credit is due. So my second choice is Cabaret. Which, you know, is going to seem like an obvious choice to everyone, and that's because it is. It hits all 4 boxes pretty well. Not as strongly as I think my first one does, but you know, pretty well. It's probably got the I think. Okay, I'm sorry, Elena. I'm sorry, Nicole. I'm sorry, 1776 fans. I think it is the best book of any musical, in my opinion. I would agree that maybe 1776, you know, gives it a good run for its money. But when all other things are considered in the criteria, I think Cabaret makes the stronger book. I mean, you go down to score. The score is iconic. You know exactly what show you're listening to the second the first chords are heard. You know, bum ba ba bum ba ba ba. You know exactly what you're listening to, and it immediately captures you and tells you everything you need to know about the show you're about to watch. Right, pulls you completely in and doesn't let go until the final bow. You know, as far as form is concerned, I do think it broke barriers in the idea of like what a musical could A, be about, and B, how it could tell that story. And I think its legacy in those regards is still very much felt to this day. I mean, like on the cover of the big book of musicals, right? To me, on the cover is Joel Grey's face. You know,
book of musicals.
You know, in heaven when we're all sitting down scribing it. To me, Joel as the MC is the image of the musical. That is the image. And which then brings me to the final point here, which is adaptability, which is where it sort of loses its points, which is I think that we are just now coming to terms with where Cabaret sits in this list. And yes, it has its issues, mainly because of how much murking has been done on the base text. But I think we are on the verge of the first true exploration into it. Further, I know everyone loves that revival, but that revival did basically surface level digging. Okay, let's be real. Okay, there's still much more deeper layers to flesh out in that play that have yet to really be hit upon, I would feel, and I think we are on the verge of that, and that its place in musical theater will be further cemented when that does happen, I think.
So I think of the similar issues as to with Anything Goes, that there is no definitive version of the text. I think that Cabaret demonstrates that like a good source material is really like the key to a good musical. Obviously there are some good wholly original musicals, but the best are basically always from a good source material.
I would agree with you.
Because I do think that the original play is pretty good. I think that the original short stories obviously are masterworks.
Yes.
So I agree it is a great musical. I don't know if I would put it in my top 3, but it is like top 10 material for me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, Nicole,
yeah. Wait.
drum roll.
But before we do top picks, can we just do a little sidebar?
Yes, sidebar.
Okay, sidebar. What is your favorite musical, Dan?
What is my favorite musical?
Yeah, what is your
Oh,
favorite?
that's not
musical?
fair. I didn't
not-
come prepared.
It's not the same as your number 1 pick. is
They're
it?
all my sons. You know?
It's not the
I
same
don't-
as your number 1 pick, is it? Well,
No,
at this very
it's not.
moment in time, what's your favorite musical?
Well, again, the problem is that, I listen to musicals on rotation. So it's when I get an earworm and it sticks in my head and I have to listen to it until it evaporates.
Mhm.
So I would say probably right now, and you're going to judge me,
Hmm.
what I've been listening to on rotation right now is Evita. Evita has been playing on.
Sorry,
It's not
pardon-
my favorite.
pardon
It's
me.
not my. It's not my favorite. It's not
Yeah.
my favorite. But
That's
it's just
fair.
what I've had this earworm for the score of it, and I've just been
Mhm.
listening to it on rotation to get it out of my head. So
Mhm.
right now, that's the first one that comes to mind because I've been conditioned to think it. You know?
Yeah, that's fair.
But I guess if you had a gun to my head, I guess I would say probably like Ragtime. I think Ragtime is my favorite musical.
Comment your favorite musicals down below as well, not just the one you think is the greatest.
Yeah. What about you, Nicole? What is your favorite musical?
My favorite
is it the same
musical-
as your favorite, as the best one?
No, it's really not. My favorite musical is Carnival.
No, yes, I'm so glad we get finally your chance to shine, Nicole. Tell us about Carnival.
I love Carnival so much. It's not the greatest musical at all, but it's so good. I love it.
One day,
Anyway,
one day.
should we
So-
move on? Should we move on to our final pick?
All right, the big ones, everybody. All right,
Mhm.
Nicole.
Okay, so my final pick on the list is Gypsy.
Mm.
Now, besides its somewhat offensive title, pretend the somewhat offensive title doesn't exist. Okay, so I guess starting from the book. The book is obviously Arthur Loren's perfect script, perfect characters, based on excellent material. The score is a score full of standards. Every single one, except for Little Lamb, has become a standard.
Mm.
And then
There's still time, Nicole.
for Little Lamb to become a standard.
There is still time.
I just think just the combination of Jerome Kern, Stephen Sondheim. Don't get me wrong, I like a good musical where Steve has written the music and the lyrics, but I think that if I had to pick, it would be lyrics far and away, and I think his lyrics for Gypsy are just without par.
Yeah.
Like, he is vague when he needs to be vague. He is specific when he needs to be specific. Have a Goldstone Mr. Egg roll is like off the charts. one of the funniest comedy numbers ever written.
Mhm.
And just I'm not sure I would say that the play is particularly adaptable, in that I don't necessarily think you could set it in a different time period or something. But I think as an example of the form, it has so many things about it that say American musical theater. The fact that it's a show business musical, the fact that there's a certain element of seediness to it. Obviously, it's about a stripper. And I think the fact that Mama Rose is, I argue with me down below, but Mama Rose is the greatest role written for a woman in the American musical theater. And I
would
think,
agree with that.
and I think part of American musical theater is, and has been, that it is the first theatrical form to fully embrace women. Like, if you had to pick the main character of American musical theater, it is the diva. It is a role like Mama Rose, but it's not in a shallow sense, but in the sense that Mama Rose is so, she is just everything. She experiences every emotion throughout that show.
Mm.
And it's hard to argue with the songwriting for the character. I mean, it's interesting that both of us have picked shows where Ethel Merman has played the main character.
Yes.
Because I do think that stereotype of a woman, the belter lead, is like very important to American musical theater.
Ethel Merman is the answer, Nicole. Ethel Merman is the greatest musical theater show. I mean, that is the answer.
I mean, yes, honestly,
Ethel Merman is the greatest musical of all time.
I actually think that when we die and go to heaven, Dan, you and I will be planted in the
Front
theater
row?
where Ethel
Front row?
Merman, of course, front row, where Ethel Merman just performs for us nonstop. What do you think?
Yes. I had a dream.
But so yes, I think that Gypsy is, for many reasons, the greatest musical of all time.
So a couple of things I want to unpack here for a second. First is that I don't know. I mean, I would agree with you with all the things you said. I do think that Gypsy belongs very much in the top 10 at the least. You know what I mean? Maybe it would have been in my top 5 if I had 2 more to add to our list, but we said 3.
Mhm.
So I would say that you are correct on many of these things. I'm coming at this argument from a very different perspective. I'm coming at from sort of what has impacted the form. Maybe that's the director in me. I don't know.
Mhm.
That's where I'm coming from. And I don't know what Gypsy has necessarily done to impact the form other than being really good and sort of helping Stephen Sondheim be a thing and being the best example of the book. And, you know,
I mean, I think it's the pinnacle.
Having her moment.
I think it's the pinnacle of the form. And I think it did lead to a slew of other musicals that had main characters like Mama Rose. And I think it also brought a seriousness to musical theater. Obviously, Rodgers and Hammerstein really created seriousness on stage at all. But Gypsy seemed to do this for where characters could be like a bit frightening, and it was fine.
Yeah, but like to me, like if you're
Sweeney Todd is just Gypsy.
So if you were going to, I'm not unpacking that. We don't have enough time for that. But I would love, that is another Insomnia for another day. But I do think there is a sense that I worry that Gypsy might be too insider baseball, that it would require some knowledge of show business to understand why it is so good, since it is about show business. You know what I mean? And, you know, I would agree with you that the musical theater medium, the crowning, you know, monarch of that is the diva. I would agree with you. I mean, that goes all the way back to Anything Goes, Reno Sweeney, I mean, allow. You know what I mean? And I think you are right in that vein, and that Gypsy is the prime example of the medium doing its job in that sense. But I don't know if I would agree that it's the greatest musical of all time.
Well, before we go to your final pick, should we go to the comments?
You're always cock blocking me. You understand?
No, I'm sorry.
That?
We're going to your pick in 1 second. Hold on. I just want to get to the.
I'm kidding.
I just want to get to the fact that Joe Mankowski thinks that Forever Plaid is the greatest.
All right.
Is
Obviously, Joe, you've worked way too long for the Zaybacks.
And
okay?
also, your boyfriend agrees with me.
Yeah, well, he's.
I think that means
sometimes.
Brian is my boyfriend now.
It might be. I think that's how this works.
Kyle says Little Shop of Horrors is the exception to that rule, much better than its source material. That's fair. That's a fair assessment, I would say.
That is fair.
And
it has improved the source material.
Melanie has come for my love for Have an Egg Roll, Mr. Goldstone, but I don't care.
Okay, but what about my bagels? Let's go back to bagels. Remember our love for bagels, Melanie?
I can go back to the bagels if you want. But anyway, here we are. Final drum roll. Your final pick, Dan.
I have to go last, which makes me feel weird, but okay. All right, so everyone die of not surprise. My choice for the greatest musical of all time is Oklahoma. Now, I know people are going to drone on about the fact I picked Oklahoma, and I feel you because I used to be one of you, and I have seen the light. I have seen the error of my ways. So because of the most recent revival, I have gone back to the base text and re-examined it much more often than I did beforehand, and found that it sort of hits all 4 criteria on the nose. Okay, 1, its book is iconic. All right, its characters and situations they are in is iconic. Every character is painted to full completion without anything extraneous. Okay, I would go further to say that all musical books are derived from how Oklahoma handled its book. It is the root of the modern American musical text as we understand it. 2, its score is unparalleled, okay? Its music is infectious, not only because it conveys the emotion of its characters in a sort of like toe-tapping way, but it also has permeated itself into the American songbook, you know? Like you can say that the American songbook rests on Rodgers and Hammerstein's back. They are the original, and Oklahoma's is their strongest score, okay? Brings us to adaptability. As we saw with the most recent Broadway production, we have only now entered the time where Oklahoma's power is truly being reckoned with. To get a little spooky here, okay? If a society's culture is a byproduct of the society, then the work of art that is able to examine that society's way of living and thinking, to me, is the top, okay? Oklahoma is an American work of art, okay? So if you are looking for the greatest American musical, then I say Oklahoma takes the crown. 4, finally and briefly, the American musical is Oklahoma, and Oklahoma is the American musical. And it has gone beyond the foundation of the medium and has become, I would say, the bedrock on which the foundation is then built from. So
Oh,
in
hot
my
damn.
mind,
Hot damn.
in my mind, what makes something great is what had the deepest impact. Yeah. And if that is the case, then I say all roads lead to Oklahoma.
God damn, you came better prepared than I did. I'm sorry. I apologize to Gypsy.
I like Gypsy.
Yeah.
I don't want you to think I hate Gypsy, you know, like I do like Gypsy.
So again, Oklahoma would be definitely probably maybe my top 5, maybe my top 10. I think that there's a lot of mythologizing around Oklahoma and the impact it's had. I mean, it impacted the form. Certainly it was an early example of its kind. I think all of its claims to being the first book musical are a little overblown because
I would agree. I'm not saying that it's the first book musical, but that the form that it took in its book has been the standard in which all else has been built on.
Yeah. I mean, I do think the book is excellent because it's based on an excellent play.
I would agree. We read that play.
Yeah, we did.
I fell asleep halfway through. We had to come back twice.
I love Green Girl.
No, it's great. It's great.
Yeah.
But after a while, so it's, like those old scripts are written in the accent of the characters. And it's just painful because you have to like decipher it as you're reading it. It's just not fun.
Melanie's right. First integrated book musical, which is what they always claim. But I mean,
look at those air quotes or those stars.
I mean,
I can feel the sass.
I mean, Melanie is sassy tonight. Hi, Melanie.
Danny is on a tear. I think that means that's a good thing.
Yeah,
right?
it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Okay, good. Woohoo! I'm on a tear, bitch.
But so yes, obviously, I think Oklahoma is one of the greatest. But I don't know if for me it is the perfect example of the form.
Fair enough.
I mean, I do think it's had a great impact. But for example, I don't necessarily think the integration of the dance has had an especially large impact. I think you can draw a line from like Oklahoma to Chorus Line, but I don't necessarily think past that it had much of an influence.
Yeah.
Nobody does a ballet anymore.
Well, but again, you could draw a line from that ballet straight to West Side Story, straight to Chorus Line, straight to, et cetera, et cetera. You could argue
absolutely
that.
Bring back the ballet. I'm pro the ballet.
Or no, I think the ballet has been integrated as the book was, further into how a musical is produced. I would say the ballet is still very much there. Chorus Line is a ballet. It is 100% a ballet.
Okay. But
you can't argue that.
Okay, but past Chorus Line.
Past Chorus Line?
Past Chorus Line.
The Billy Joel musical, Moving Out.
No, that's a dance show. That's something different. The Billy Joel musical, Moving Out is not a musical.
I'm kidding. Well, look. Greatness is in the eye of the beholder, I would say. So, that being said, Nicole, what is the greatest musical of all time?
Oh, damn. I mean, the world may never know.
A book report on Peter Rabbit, Peter Rabbit. Report on Peter Rabbit. A book report on Peter Rabbit. Peter Rabbit is a stupid book about the stupid rabbit who steals vegetables from other people's gardens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 83 to go.
83 to go.
So real quick, because we went long on that debate there. What we read this week, we read a play called The Droll, or a stage play about the end of theater by Meg Morathnick.
Which is very relevant today, I would say.
I would say it does what it says on the tin.
Yes, it does.
It is a stage play about the end of theater. Basically, it's sort of a dystopian future play about a future where theater is banned in a sort of...
It's also about Shakespeare?
Yeah, in a sort of Elizabethan style, in the way that theater was banned in the Elizabethan age. And did you enjoy it, Dan?
Yes, I did very much enjoy it. I enjoyed it because it was cathartic. You know, when you're forced inside your house and it's just eerie because this was written before the pandemic. It almost was. It's almost has like a prophecy feel to it. Because all of what the characters are feeling and emoting, and that they are not allowed to perform. They're not allowed to do their art form. And right now we're being shackled to our homes. Well, some of us are not listening to that advice, but we are being shackled to our homes, and it's preventing us from being able to do our form and our art. And I think it was a play that I needed to read. It allowed me to have some sort of catharsis about that. So if you are an artist out there and you are struggling with the fact that your form is closed, read this play, because I promise you it is going to feel therapeutic by the time you're done with it.
The language is a lot of fun. She does a sort of faux English, but still understandable by American language. And if you would like to read it for yourself, it's available on New Play Exchange, which is a website where you can read plays by new playwrights. It costs $12 a year for you to join. That's $1 a month to read as many new plays as you like. It's available on there. We read this at Paula Vogel's recommendation. This is one of Paula Vogel's favorite plays.
Is it possible for us to love Paula Vogel any more than we already do? I mean, are we truly the biggest fans of Paula?
No, we stand Paula Vogel, everyone here.
Yes, we stand Paula Vogel. So everybody, give this one a read. Trust me, you will not be sorry. And it's available online to read it, so you don't have to go to a place or order it to sort of get there to see it. So highly recommend The Droll. Everyone, give it a read. How about a bootleg, Nicole? How about a bootleg? Jerry Orbach.
We got a few comments in before we go to our final segment and close.
Yeah. Go for it.
Melanie says, "Oh, Jerry, oh my God,
I know
Jerry Orbach." Right. So if Ethel Merman is the main character of American musical theater, Jerry Orbach is an able sidekick for her. 10 out of 10.
I would say she is the diva, but he is her opposite. He is he is her leading man.
I would just like to send an apology to Joe Mank for accidentally implying that Forever Plaid is one of the greatest musicals of all time. That he would think that. I apologize.
No, Joe, I that is fake news. You have now your favorite musical is Forever Plaid.
Oh, also John Gaffner this was about your Oklahoma analysis. So
there
you go. A compliment for you.
Shucks, thanks, John. I do it for you, kid. Stay golden.
More Jerry love and. James Brodigan did the show 2 summers ago in Smithtown. I saw it 20 times. I mean, I love 42nd Street, but I don't know if I love it. I don't know if I love it 20 times. I love it. But I saw
James in that, actually. Me and Brian went to see James in that. James tapped his ass off. He tapped his ass off.
I'm sure
Which
James
is all
was lovely.
in that show. In that show, you either sing, have a costume change, or tap dance. That's all you do in the show. There's nothing else.
So should we wind down with a little bit of EastLine news?
Yeah, well, before we get there, a fine non sequitur factoid for you, Nicole.
All right, let's go.
Did you know, that 41% of adults believe dinosaurs and humans coexisted?
Oh, come on.
So, my thought to you, I'm posing this to you as a thought here. What are your thoughts on maybe we should just cut our losses on education and say that we tried our best, but shit's hopeless? What do you think? What do you think?
We could, I guess. No, dinosaurs. I don't know.
Dinosaurs did not coexist with humans.
No, they didn't.
Also, the sky is blue and up is up and down is down.
All right.
Speaking of science, we actually have this wonderful little series coming to you guys starting tomorrow, which is this sort of curated poetry series that is about our Long Island environment, which we're very excited to be bringing to you guys. The first one goes live on Saturday tomorrow, and there will be one posted every Saturday thereafter for the next few months. The hope is to sort of bring attention to our wonderful nature around us and to maybe, you know, go outside, take a breath of fresh air, and be grateful for the fact that we can.
We've had some lovely EastLine community members contribute recordings of poems, and they sound wonderful.
They are beautiful.
I can't wait for you to hear them.
Yes.
If you want to get involved in other EastLine events coming up, every Sunday night at 7 p.m. on the dot, we hold EastLine Book Club. This Sunday, we're kicking off our series of Halloween-themed plays with the original Make a Deal with the Devil play. It's an adaptation of Dr. Faustus called Faustus, That Damned Woman by Chris Bush.
It's so good. We read it on this for this program.
I loved it so much I wanted book club to read it as well. So we're reading that Sunday night at 7 p.m. If you are interested in attending, new people are always welcome. You can find out more information at facebook.com/EastLine Book Club. And
special sidebar here, if you join that book club group, you will have updates and be eligible. I don't know why I'm saying that. It's not like it's a Costco card, but
if you come enough times to book club, we'll let you.
We'll give you the super secret password, and you'll teach through the super secret handshake. Anyway, we run a movie club out of that book club group, which meets bi-weekly every other Thursday. This coming Thursday, we will be watching Pirates of Penzance with the, could you let me say the goddamn name first?
Kevin Kline's pants.
God, you're beating the lead. God, Jesus. Yes, Kevin Kline is in Pirates of Penzance, if you couldn't tell by Nicole's squealing. And so his pants are quite beautiful. His pants are beautiful.
Comment what you think about Kevin Kline's pants down below.
When's our next episode, Nicole?
Well, if you can't get enough of this.
I know I can.
We're here every Friday night at midnight. Just to reiterate, that's Friday at 11:59 p.m.
Yes.
Oh, see, somebody loves Kevin Kline. Thank you, Melanie.
Yes.
Is it showing? There we go. Every Friday night at midnight, we will be back here with more of this nonsense. We hope you'll join us.
And more terrible banter.
Excuse me, my banter was fine. I don't know about your banter.
My banter it's okay. It can get better. There's room to improve. I'm taking notes. Comment notes on my banter below. I would love to hear what people think about my banter. I'll never read them, but I'd love to hear what you think. Well, everybody, it's been a hell of a time, and thank you for joining us and listening, and we're going to catch you next week. As always, I'm Danny Higgins.
I'm Nicole Saven.
And please wear your mask.